lot of room for corruption, and that is really why many people are not feeling it, or the palliatives are going to the same people. Okay, I will tell you that I too do not see enough people getting these palliatives or coming out to say so. Okay, or coming out, because also you know that in Nigeria too, nobody likes to tell people that very palliative. Okay, but we have to be sure that the corruption ability, when all these monies and things, so that's why we should look for things that the people who get the advantage know it right away. For example, the education loan fund. The student who is not harassed for tuition in the following academic year knows he has gotten the advantage. If he has been given money to maintain himself and he does not have to go to his parents begging for money, he knows. So we must look for initiatives that are crystal clear that the people are getting the advantage. Not once a week to say, I give you money to... A person who is part of a mass transportation activity, and you say he is a government official, he's not going to pay, and he uses his card to enter into the mass transportation, okay, and says, I'm a government official, you can go in. He has gained, rather than you saying you are identifying government officials, you ask them to send their bank account, you will send them money for transportation fare. You are not sure whether he's gaining from it, and the amount you send to him may not make much. He may not be one of those who go on mass transportation. So if you have mass transportation, okay, it is those who need it who will use it, and those who may not need it before may not say, "I park a car, I love mass transportation." But if he does not need it, that is again another way of subsidizing only those who need it. And those who don't need it will say, well, I choose. Okay? I mean, if you do mass transportation in Aduna, I will not use it. In fact, if I use it in your time, tomorrow, so I won't use it. Okay.
So, Prof, at the moment it appears that attention is turning away from the federal government, even to the states.
Absolutely.
Questions are being asked.
Absolutely.
What is happening to the Homongo's allocation coming to state? And we don't know whether at the next session of the protest, because they say they may resume on the 1st of October. If attention should turn to states, how do you see Ekiti faring?
We fly high. We did the national one. We did not. We had our Ekiti festival even during the Abi. You didn't come and cover. We had our festival. Everything was fine. The governor of Ibanji's administration has been one with a human face right from the very beginning. Okay, maybe that is also where he says he was homebred, so he knows all the pains in the place. So it has been okay. And again, you know that October 16 is always our anniversary.
Yes.
So we always try to ensure that things get done well, way before that. But I am a full statist. I'm a sub-nationalist in every sense of the word. I'm a federalist. I do not believe everybody should just be waiting on Abuja to do anything. That is not a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, large state like Nigeria. Should actually be, the local governments actually should be a major aspect of our governance. I know we will still get into it, but yes, we're a federal system. I believe it should be a two-tier federal system. There's the federal government and the state government. And then at the state, it should be two-tier, the state and the local government. So that there should even be some towns, okay, some urban towns that should have their own mayor, okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it will be even a town administration. Okay, Ado, for example, there's no reason why Ado cannot have you define out a geographical space of Ado, and Ado has a town administrator in addition to the local government. So that's, I support that completely. And I'm hoping that sometimes when you say they have gotten humongous, yeah, relative to before. Yes. But the question is that if they've gotten relative to before, is that still enough to do all that they need to do? And that is still a question. Many of the states were not formed based on viability and so on. So they're still struggling, but that's where we are. And it's unlikely that any state will want to fold up, because they know how Ekitilara ló ń fẹ́ fold up by, with all the effort to get Ekiti State, or even the LCDAs that have been created in many of the states. It will be very difficult for you to knock them out. So there are realities on the ground that we must face, and we must do the best to make the best of the suboptimal situation.
Prof, do you think Ekiti State government is doing enough from the, additional allocation coming to it to ease or to develop the people?
Well, I'll tell you this. When you look at the list of states, it is usually about the 34th, 33rd in allocation. Okay? But also, we have 34th, 33rd in size, 33rd, 34th in land space. We are the total land space of Nigeria is about 1 million square kilometers. We're only 56353, so we were 0.6% of land of the country. The country, they say, is 220 million. We're only 3.2 million or 3.9 million. We're 2% of the country. So if you do 0.6%, if you do 2%, we're a 1.5% state. So if anything is being distributed based on land size and on population, about that 2%, Kinuama do. We get 5%, 5.5 billion the last time when there's a lot of money, 5.5 billion. I think the local government got 3 point something. Bayelsa, which has only 8 local government, I worked in Bayelsa before, got 25 billion in state and another, I think 3 point something in the state. So while we got about 8 billion total, they got 29, 30 billion. Okay? But it is how you spend your money that matters. Okay? We spend our allocation well. We have a lot of development partners who give us either money or loans. We spend our loans well. We have several programs for results, either World Bank loans or other loans that we spend well. And that's really why, if we did not have development partners work with us along with our FAC, we will not be where we are today. I mean, we don't have development partners come and say, you have given us money, leave us alone. No, we work with them. We're a progressive state. Governor Fayemi was a development governor. Governor Yebanji also, he is political scientist, worked in the bank. He's a disciplined person. So we are doing well. He has uh, um, organized around himself a group of smart young people. I'm one of the oldest among them, grandfather among them, but he has quite a number of young people who are working with him. Happy to work with them, to offer my fatherly advice and whatever else I can do to ensure that the continuity is continuous.
Prof, let's talk about local government autonomy.
Yeah.
At the moment, there are divergent views about the autonomy granted local government.
Yeah.
Some are saying it is countering that principle of centralized, or is it
federalism,
decentralizing?
Yeah, there's too much unitarianism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then some states are also objecting to it, and we are aware that Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has actually come out fully against the federal government and some of his the local government chairmen in the state. What is your own view about the local government autonomy?
Let me say that I am a proponent of local government, what I would call effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, the local government being the closest to the people. Now, I've just even indicated to you that there may even should be consideration for certain town administration because of either the size or the special circumstances. So I'm a full advocate of local government. I also want to indicate to you that, I mean, when they talk about this homebred or not homebred, I lived in the United States from 1978 continuously to 2014, even though I came home back 2011. So I lived in the States for that long as a graduate student and as a university professor teaching chemical engineering in Washington, D.C. I lived in the state called Maryland. And I went to the capital of Maryland, which is capital of Maryland, only twice in all the time I lived in Maryland. All my activities were at the local government. All at the local government. Number two is that the local government chairman of the Montgomery County that I was a Howard University professor, a colleague of mine, a law professor. He was re-elected 8 times, 2-year terms. He did so well, they wanted to have him. The governor said, no, I am happy with my local government. So our schools were good, our security, our fire service, our parks, our recreation, everything was good. The governor, okay, cannot just come in and say anything within the local government, because these people will say, we elected this person. The president cannot come to Maryland and come to our county and not talk with he will not take him into court. It will be the county, something I call them county administrator or so, that he will come and meet. I hope you just saw yesterday too, Olympics.
Yes.
It was the mayor of Paris that handed a flag to the mayor of Los Angeles. Okay.
Next
for the Olympics of 2028. If it had been Africa, it would be the president of Paris handing a flag to the president of America. That is how local governance should run. People should be able to hold their local government accountable. But in this same US that I'm talking about, it's a federal institution, it's a federal place. Okay. Texas has, I don't know, I think they have 340 counties and boroughs. My state, Maryland, I think has 20 something. Every state determines the number of local government it has, whether, how long each election is, whether they are paid or not paid, whether it's part-time or not part-time, depending on the circumstances of your state. But when you have a constitution that one size fits all to everybody, àti those tó ní epo tó pọ̀ ní o, àtàwọn tí ò ní rárá, governor is paid the same amount of money. We commissioners are paid the same amount of money. PS pays the same amount of money. etc., etc. It does not make for efficiency. So any move towards more unitarianism is a movement away from federalism and makes things ineffective and inefficient.
You subscribe to the J. Makinde's position?
I do. The states were created by fiat. None of the states was created based on plebiscites. The people were not consulted. The military woke up, depending on persuasive ability, they gave them states. But yes, even countries too. We were not many. Virtually all the countries in the world. I doubt. I have to think hard whether there were any countries who they said, okay, we want to be a country, and they do a vote, and then they are given it. So you have to deal with the reality that you're in. So we have states. Local governments were also created by, you know that no state was created by a civilian administration. No local government created by a civilian administration. There are rules in the Constitution for creation, but they are very onerous. Okay? They're very onerous. So if you now decide to just take over from the federal government is another government like the state government. The federation is different from the federal government. Okay? So the federation is the federal government plus the states. The federal government cannot be just so much bigger than all the 36 states put together. It has its role. The federal government is the 37th government of the country. It's the 38th government of the country if we take the federal FCT. It has a role that is different from all the other states. But it is not a master-slave relationship. We should be in a cooperative federalism where the federal government sees its role as being cooperative with the other 37 governments of the country. To not see itself as a father just dictate to the others. Okay? So again, I believe it should be a two-tier. Federal is a two-tier at the federal level and two-tier at the state level. If the federal government wants to impact on states, it can do it through some competitive grants. You know, because true, the federal government may, because we have party politics, it may have a policy that differs from the policy of a particular state because of their own political party machinery. But there may be local governments within that state that likes a policy of the federal government.
Okay.
It should be able to do it. But the federal government can use its own allocation, okay? Because there's really no federal person. Abi? So there's an allocation to the federal government that it can use in certain ways to equalize, to redistribute richness, policies. So you can decide to say, I have this policy and I have this 20 billion naira to spend on the policy. Those local governments that want to do it, I will provide grants to them and they compete for it. Not just allocations. Or I may say that I have this amount of money to spend on local government. It should be passed through states. Okay? So there are two ways. They may have some money to spend on all local governments, or it may have certain policies to promote in which it wants certain local governments to apply. And be able to apply. Same as states. Okay? If a federal government has a policy, it may say, I have this policy. Those states who are in agreement with the policy make proposals. Those states that do not support this policy, they will lose something by not taking part in the proposal. That is what federal government should do. They should not use a stick to beat on states or use their long arm to get into local government affairs.
Now, the government went to court and Supreme Court gave a verdict, imposing the local government autonomy on the states.
Well, I've not read the CTC. I'm not a lawyer, but I've also appeared in China's TV on this issue. There is a section 310, I believe, that is very clear about the fact that the federal government is supposed to act with the states, and the states are supposed to act with the local government. It did not. And in law, they say that if a certain thing is very clearly stated, the intention of the framers clear there, and you as an interpreter do not have any right to interpret. So the Supreme Court was doing a lot of judicial activity. I don't even think they said we have now granted autonomy to the states. We've been using the term autonomy very loosely. But like everything, the Supreme Court are human beings. Some of them have their own political propensities and proclivities. So if there will still be certain things that states must approve. So there will still be a study of the local government, this ruling, and the National Assembly will decide whether it is new laws they will pass or constitutional amendment. If it's a constitutional amendment, it will come to the states for approval. 2/3 of the states must approve. And if Nigeria's unique federalism will be a 3-tier one, then we'll see. Okay? So I'm sure we will live by it, but it will be an unusual one. See.
Do you see the request of the federal government to ask the National Assembly to process a law that will make the local government elections to be conducted by INEC sailing through?
Again, it is too federalized. It's too unitarizing to have INEC conduct not only 36, they have 36 governors. They have, I believe it is 8,900 and, 36 governors. They have 360 House of Rep, 100 senators. Those are the governors. So 36 governors, one presidential election, 360 House of Rep and 100 senators. They have those. And they are still struggling. Now they will now have to conduct, there are 8,908 wards in the country, 774 local governments and 8,984, something like that, wards, because they have to do councillors' election. It's too much work for them. Too much federalizing. I even think that there should be some states who should just say, it will be zero-party election we will have in our local government. Some may say it's a political party. Some will say, look, zero party. Some will say it will be part-time. Others will, because when you have such a large number of people, it's too unitarizing. I don't think it will sail through. Okay, it's one thing to propose it. It's another thing for it to sail through. I don't think it should sail through. I don't hope it should sail through.
And do you agree that the local governments have not before now been properly run under the state government?
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree that but when you say that something has not been done, you don't propose another solution that will just make it worse. The distribution of roles between the federal and state and local government should be clearer and sharper. The role of the federal government should be reduced. Some of the things that the federal government are doing should be passed on to the state government. The present role of the state should be modified. Okay? I do not see anything that the state is doing now that the federal government should be doing. But I see something that the federal government are doing that the states should be doing. So that's why I say the role of the federal government should be reduced. The role of the state should be modified. So some things should be reduced, and some things should be from the federal government. The role of the local government should be increased. I don't see anything that the local government is doing now that should be turned on to the state. But I see something that the state are doing that should be turned on to local government. So that's my position. Reduce the role of the federal government, modify the role of the state government, and increase the role of the local government. When you do that, ensure that those who become local government chairmen and councillors fully understand their importance. And therefore, you don't just choose any local riffraff. I'm not saying all they're riffraff, but even our chairmen, some of them are pretty good. And I'm not even saying only of this state, all nationwide. But the councillors are a mixed bag, a big mixed bag. Okay? And so, but you need to have, if this is agreed, if we actually sit down, that is really the conversation we should have. The governance, when they're talking about bad governance and so on, we should drill down to what it is that we're demanding. Okay? You can look at the exclusive list, reduce the exclusive list. Okay? Even reduce the concurrent list.
At the federal level?
No, the exclusive list at the federal level, which excludes the state. The concurrent list is is what the federal and the state can do together. Make that as small as possible. The residual list should be with the state. And the states themselves too should have their own exclusive, concurrent, and residual
with the local
with the local government.
So let's talk about your department
Yeah.
of infrastructure and public utilities. It's almost 2 years now that you've been there as a commissioner.
Yeah.
What is the development
Yeah.
within that ministry?
Well, my ministry is comprised of four, five parts. The main ministry itself, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Public Utilities, which is like a coordinating body, PAMSEC, that's all of them. So that's the main ministry. But we have an Ekiti State Electricity Board, as well as the Ekiti State Electricity Regulatory Bureau. Both of those are involved in electricity. We have the Ekiti Water and Sewerage Corporation or Company, which is a CSC registered company. We have the Ekiti State Small Town Rural Water Sanitation and Hygiene Agency, which deals with small town and rural towns. And then we have the Ekiti State Water Sanitation Regulatory Agency, which regulates that water sector. We have the fire service right now, which is still under me. Okay. Let's talk about its reorganization as part of a larger disaster management arrangement in the state. And then we have what I would call oil and gas matters, energy matters. Anything to do with oil and gas, infrastructure, and so on. So those are the areas that my ministry and telecommunications too. Anything that has to do with public utilities, infrastructure that is not housing, that is not roads. Okay, those are the things that the Ministry of Infrastructure and Public Utilities.
What has been brought to bear in these various departments within the ministry the last,
Let's look at electricity, for example. There were many, this government, let's start actually with the pioneer administration. So it's very clear that generation, transmission, and distribution in Ekiti State was suffering, or were suffering from underinvestment, and the people were unhappy about the electricity they were getting. So under the Fahmy administration, we started the issue of independent power projects. So at least tackle generation within Ado town. And that was when this independent power project started, which was completed under the Bauer administration in November. So since November of last year, we've had a independent power project that can generate 2.625 megawatts. We have a 2 megawatt take or pay, 11 kilometers of transmission that has been providing 24/7 electricity when there is gas to the government house, secretariat, to Exus, that's to the teaching hospital. And we are working very hard to ensure that it gets to Ekiti State University within the shortest period. And down the road to, again, within a very short time, that 2.6 megawatt may go to 4.65 megawatt, so that more people along those paths will get it.
outside government?
Outside just government circuits, But the fact that we gave to government does two things. It saves money that government was spending before, because otherwise there would be no need to do it. And it also frees up the 2 megawatts, or the energy that used to come to government can now be used in other parts of the state. So it is not just, and it also enhances the productivity of both our secretariat. People can now work well during the day, stay a little bit longer, and Exus, who before they'll be worried, just as you said, you were worried about surgery going on, and so they get power. So that is as far as generation is concerned. For quite a while too, quite a number of communities did not have transmission lines get to their areas. So under the Bar administration, we spent almost 2 billion getting almost 106 kilometers of line to Ikogosi, from Ado, from Omisha Jano, all the way to Bonyi, Ayekire, Ilasa, Ekiti East. We're doing a line from Aramoko to Jero, a line from Iluomoba to Ikole, a line from Iyemero to Akaji. Okay? So we have done 106 and we're doing those. And so quite a number of communities that did not have electricity had electricity. Some are prepaid bulk meters, some are postpaid bulk meters. We are moving very rapidly towards individual meters for as many people as possible. I'll get to meters second. So I've talked about generation, which we have started. Talked about transmission, which we have done. We have met, there's a lot of annoyance against BDC. Yes. But it's a distribution company. It can only distribute what it gets. But we are also aware that even it is not doing it efficiently. And we've met with them recently and we saw some of the problems they have. Okay? Even with, we joke about their
inefficiency.
Well, what they have, what they call some kind of waterfall financing. They make 11 billion naira or 12 billion naira, but they are only given 606 million of that for operations. Mm. So they have, it's like, somebody suffering and not telling the world what is paining it. So you have to also understand some of their predicaments. But so the issue of generation, of transmission, of distribution, of metering, Ekiti is the worst metered in the country. They say they have about 110,000 BDC customers, only 20,000 of them are metered. We are working hard to ensure that you don't just give us single phase meter, 110,000 naira, triple phase meter, 200 and something. We can't afford that. It's not. So we are working closely with BDC to ensure that affordable meters are what are given to our citizens. So we're doing a pilot. Kogosi is working. We're doing a pilot with 4 other communities that will come on board soon so that we can increase the number of meters going on. You've heard about the Electricity Act. It has been in the forefront of ensuring that we are able to, we enacted our own law, we set up our regulatory bureau, satisfied all the things required for it to stand on its own. We are one of 4 or 5 states. We are one of about 8 states that have their own laws, one of about 5 states that have complete regulatory control. So we are at the forefront of ensuring that the Electricity Act is properly done. And in terms of increased generation, we are talking with investors to do both off-grid and mini-grids across the state. These are not These will be endeavors that what we call willing seller, willing buyer. You identify a community, you go to them and say you want to provide solar or gas-based. This is the tariff. Because part of the problem in the electricity industry has been this issue of subsidy. Okay. When an investment recovery is based on subsidy, the question is, suppose the person who is providing you subsidy can no longer pay. What happens? Will you be able to? So many people don't rush in. And those who rush in try and see whether they can recover their money quickly before that guy becomes insolvent. So not many people will do that. So when you have a utility, it's best to know what the cost of it is. Tell the person you are giving that, eye báyìí ni kíní yìí cost o, ṣé ẹ lè sanwó ẹ̀. Tí ẹ bá lè san gbogbo ẹ̀, bó tẹ́ ṣe rò pé ẹ máa lò ń bẹ̀, ìbá báyìí ni kẹ́ lò tẹ́ ẹ lè sanwó fún. This alternative is what you may need to have. Everybody must. And then you will now also find out who of those can really, really not pay. And you may charge those who can pay a little bit more, so those who cannot pay can pay a little bit less. And then at some point, government can also come in. But you should not base the establishment of that endeavor on subsidy right from the very beginning. That has been the reason for that. And we are very clear in our mind about that. The government does not want to overpromise. Okay? But we will do whatever it takes for investors to come in. Do you want land? If we will, okay, the community, look, this is for your own benefit. Do you want security? Do you want some road access? Okay? We want to be sure that the community is not ripped off and the investor is secured. The issue of electricity, energy theft, and vandalism are also something that government has taken very seriously. Because when you steal somebody's goods, it is his loss. But when you vandalize the transformer or steal a electricity wire or bypass energy, somebody must be paying. A lot of people are impacted down the line. And when you do energy theft, somebody must be paying for what you have not, provided. Okay, so the law takes it very seriously, and that has been what the investors sometimes want to know. They want to know the seriousness of the government in terms of that. So that's in electricity. Water.
Before we move to electricity,
yes.
A lot of people actually felt that the Ekiti Electricity Act was going to take over completely from BEDC.
No.
So that
No. It's a regulatory. Okay. It's more of a regulatory. Now, but we also created a Ileyi electricity power company with the possibility of generating, transmitting, distribution of electricity. So that was another company that we have created, but that we have not, that is just new, to take part in what we call the electricity market. But, I mean, we have to be careful about how we participate. I mean, the government is regulator. Sometimes you have to be careful not to take too much part in the commanding height of the economy. But in a transition market, or in a market where there's a lot of aim to make a lot of profit, there may be times when they will not want to go into some unserved or underserved area. We should be able to have a government company that can do it, that can actually get loans, that people know that kì í ṣọ̀rọ̀ ìjọba rèé o, ó lè jẹ́ pé ìjọba ló ní, but they are operating like a private company. So that's what that Ileyi is. So the aim is not to replace BDC. As you know, BDC has actually unbundled in Ekiti State. It's no longer, it has a BDC parent company, but we have a BDC Ekiti. We have a IBDC Ekiti, registered as a CSA with a registration number. We have an Olokiti distribution company that distributes electricity for the IPP, because the IPP is really a Genco. The Olokiti distribution company is a disco. And then we of course have this our Ileyi electric power. So we actually have four distribution companies in the state, and maybe we say 3.5, and 1.5 Genco. Okay, with the one that is producing actually, and the one that could produce, and Disco 3, the one that are actually distributing and one that can actually. And then we of course still have. At the end of the day, what we will eventually need to have is a state grid, staying alongside the national grid. Just as you have state roads, okay, you should be able to have, just as you have federal roads and you have state roads, you should be able to have federal grids and state grids.
How long will that take? State grid.
We've already started. I mean, the IPP grid is a grid that serves where I just told you, Exos, Secretariat, Government House. That is already a grid independent of national. It's 11 kilometers. We are doing a line from Exos to Exo, paid for by state. Absolutely no BDC involvement. So that is the beginning of a state grid. And as we find it convenient, we will, again, it is this Electricity Act that allows us to do some of these things. It has broken the monopoly. You cannot say that we cannot provide electricity to somewhere when you cannot guarantee electricity to the place. An electric company is just not the line and the poles. Not just the poles and the wire. It's the poles, the wires, and sustainable electricity. The third thing that I should mention to you is that right now we have only one transmission station in the state at Omishanjana. There are the federal government has approved, and there's work going on in transmission station in Ikere, transmission station in Lupeju, transmission station at Ijesha-Ishu, and the possibility of a fourth new transmission station at Otun. So that, and that will be sufficient for quite a while if they come on, so that the distance between transmission stations, if electricity gets to them, from where the transmission stations are to where the electricity gets finally used, is within 20 kilometers. Because right now, we have only Omishanjana transmitting all the way to Ijero and to Ise. And we have Omuaron transmission station, transmission all the way at some point to my town in Ode, and so on. So, and by the time the electricity gets there, it almost becomes like candle power. So we need to reorganize the transmission station distribution. But a transmission station does not ensure that you have electricity. You can only say that if there is electricity, you will get it. But that you have the transmission station, that you have these lines, does not mean you will get electricity. So we need to increase the generation within the state. So that's electricity.
Okay. You have other sectors you want to touch on.
Water, Ekiti is the best endowed water state in this country. I mean, very few states with our size have as many dams as we have. Ero Dam, Egbe Dam, Ureje Dam, Itakraji Dam. We even have Ogbese too, and so on. And a lot of money has been spent, especially over the years, including from Fayeme 1 through Fayeme 2 and now, to improve the dams and the reservoirs themselves. Okay? The analogy between water and electricity is very apt. In electricity, there's generation. In water, there's the reservoir, the body of water. In electricity, there is transmission. In water, there's transmission of electricity, of water from those reservoirs to, from those body of waters to reservoirs around. Okay? There's this, in electricity, there's distribution. In water, there's distribution from those reservoirs to various homes and fetch points. Okay, so there's strong analogy between them. But in water, there are a number of things. You have to treat the water with chemicals. That's a lot of money. But more importantly, you have to pump the water from where they are to where you want them delivered. And our electricity difficulties show up in our water difficulties. Yes, so that's one thing. The electricity difficulties show up in our water difficulties. That also is compounded by the fact that many of the pipes are old and aged, and they're actually not of the appropriate type. For example, some of them are asbestos, they should not be. So we need to be able to change them. Okay? But you cannot either, because some of them are leaking, and when you change pumps at the transmission power stations, the water stations, they sometimes are so much pressure that they burst the pipes. And you cannot check for leaks of pipes unless you pump good water. So So we're struggling with electricity in order to ensure that water gets to where they should get to. And but we are now convinced that we need to identify these dams as productive use of energy centers, not to depend on the national grid. Because we've been constantly saying, oh, we want the national grid to get on there. Electricity may get to the people at Ekun in a road dam. But the electricity that lights their home will not be enough to pump water for a certain length of time to get to places. So the fact that I have electricity in Ekun does not mean that electricity is sufficient to pump, because these are heavy pumps. They have low lift pumps, high lift pumps. Low lift pumps from the body of water to where they are treated. High lift pump to where after they've been treated to far away. These are high power pumps, high voltage pumps. If you want to pump from Mero to Ado, you have to pump continuously for 8 hours or 10 hours. Sometimes you don't. I mean, imagine, have you been, now they're talking about day and so on, okay? Meaning that they can assure you of that. But you may assure people of electricity, but can you assure of a certain voltage for that period? So that's a difficulty. So and you know, I talked with you about the water and sewerage company. They address urban water. The Ekiti State Small Town and Rural Water Sanitation and Hygiene Agency addresses rural and small town. Rural below 5,000 population, small town between 5,000 and 25,000, and the urban is above 25,000. But some of the water company actually also gives water to small town and urban. So that, and then the regulatory agency actually regulates water providers, those who do sachet water, borehole drillers, those who use tankers to provide water to people, okay, so that the water quality is assured. Boreholes, there are people who always complain that people come and drill their boreholes, tell them there will be water, then within a short period of time. So the sanitation regulatory agency has been instrumental in ensuring certain discipline within that regime. So that's water. So the regulatory agency, ECRUWASA, and the Water Corporation. We're still struggling, but we have indicated we have the Soil Wash program, which is a World Bank that it's a P4R. The government is very supportive. We are working to ensure that we use that program. First, we've done a lot of boreholes, 64 boreholes plus 121. You may have heard about quite a number of them, but we are not. We want to. Our index of success will be the additional number of homes that have water in their pipes, not just boreholes. But remember that boreholes too can be reticulated into homes. So it is not just borehole in which is in your home. Everybody thinks of borehole and thinks of borehole in its home. But the borehole of government are two types: those that can be reticulated and those that have fetch points at the point of boring. That's with water. With fire service, as I told you that we have fire under us. There are 7 fire stations in the state. 5 of them have fire engines. Only 3 of them really have fire bays. So you see, 7, 5, 3. 7 stations. 5 engines. 5 of them have fire engines, and 3 of them have bays. You know, when you say bays in which the fire engines actually go in and go out. And those, in fact, 2 of the places are in palaces. Some of them are in rented houses. So we need to, but we have significantly increased the number of fire stations. At one point, it was only 1 or 2 working. We have 5 working now. The number of personnel was increased significantly under Governor Fayemi. We are hoping there will be some recruitment, additional recruitment under this new regime. So we are reasonably happy about it, but the fire department is going to be part of a larger disaster management arrangement in the state. Lasema from Lagos State came recently to review our disaster management. SEMA, SEPA, fire, the ambulances, all of those. The Safe City program, the AirWAS program. That's the last issue is the oil and gas. As we continue to do all these power projects, and as we continue to talk about the cost of fuel, there needs to be gas in the state. Right now, we have what is called virtual gas. The trucking, just like the trucking, fuel and petrol and diesel, the trucking gas. But we need a situation where gas can also be brought in via pipe. I mean, Oyo State, Ogun State, they're already having some gas infrastructure come to the state. There's no reason why gas infrastructure cannot also come to Ekiti State, say from Ore, or from Obajan, or from Ajaokuta. And we're working to ensure that because until then, we'll continue to ensure that whatever the CNG initiative of the federal government, we will be part of it. And we have a CNG conversion center being built along the Woroko Road. There are a number of gas stations that want to be conversion centers and gas outlets. I think Bovas is one of those that will be part of the CNG gas change. I'm not talking about LPG now, which already exists, or CNG. So we are hopeful that we will be part of all of that arrangement.
Prof, let's round off
Yeah.
on the note of one of the demands, on
Yeah.
the note of one of the demands of the protesters.
Yeah.
Reducing cost of governance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it necessary?
Governance is too expensive. I will admit that governance is too expensive. From the top to the bottom. Okay? Whether it is the cost of running a governor's office, to the cost of running of the assemblies, to the cost of political appointees, to the cost of government officials. Expensive. When I see any governor's convoy, and I'm not taking my governor alone, any governor's convoy, or when I see the presidential convoy, I say, this is expensive. I was Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Turkey. And one day, the president, Jonathan, was supposed to come and visit my university. He had come to Yenagoa to do something, but he was supposed only to come to my university, to come and visit us and go back to Yenagoa. So they told me that he would come at 9. And I waited at 9, he didn't come. And I now just called somebody. Say, when do you think he will come? Say, Prof, he won't come until about 12. So I said, he will come at about 12. So I now had to go and inspect something. I said, let me quickly go and inspect that thing and come back. So I went about 10 o'clock. I think he now changed his mind and came a little bit earlier. Now, where I went to inspect was along his path. Okay? Along his path. And so, but they did not tell me on time that he had decided to come. So he was almost close to the place when they said, the presidency has taken off from here and I go out. He's going to Tokyo. So I was stuck where I went to inspect. And you know, when there's a convoy like that, you can't join. Huh? So my car was there. Lord have mercy.
You're waiting for
the number of cars.
And you were restless.
The number of cars that went past. And I knew that he was coming only to the university for maybe 1 hour to inspect something and return. I tell you that there must have been 100 cars that went past me on that day. And I just shook my head. And this is not right. And I'm sure okay. Now, I don't know how many of them were official or non-official, but that was still money spent. Somebody must have paid. That's burning that amount of fuel for that activity is money that could have been spent elsewhere. It's the same everywhere. No matter the cost. I remember my dad once saying that when fuel price increases, actually it is government that feels it the most. Because government must still run. They must still buy the fuel at the cost that it is. The fact that the fuel is this amount does not mean the governor must not go to where he needs to. You may sometimes modify a little thing, but in general. So the cost of governance increases when all of this things increase. In fact, and also the propensity of government officials to be corrupt when the costs of all of this thing increases. Because owó wọn àwa aládẹ wà ń di ibi tán ti ń fún ọ lépè jẹ́ kèmi náà rọ díẹ̀ sí inú tèmi. So the cost increases. The issue too, as I've mentioned, of everybody in the country earning the same, the governors earn the same, commissioners earn the same, these earn the same. Okay? The number of political appointees. Some of the political appointees are made for maybe the next election or to promote, just to give employment. Government as employment is what Nigeria is about to a lot of extent. Not efficiency, not productivity. I don't know when that will change. So civilian government is expensive. Okay? And I think we need to look for ways of reducing governance and still ensuring that those people not employed are productive. You take them into agri, take them into value chains. Every commodity has a value chain. If you say somebody is in the agri farmer, value chain does not mean he's a farmer. From inputs all the way to electricity, water, there is a value chain for all of education. Everything that a human being needs from the morning till evening has a commodity. And each of those communities has a value, a value chain that we must engage our people in. Politics should not be a commodity.
What's your recommendation in terms of reducing cost of governance?
Oh, I mean, the first thing is to reduce the number of people. The other thing is to reduce the unit, is to reduce the number, to reduce conspicuous consumption. Okay, conspicuous consumption. Parties, this and that. Travels that do not bring anything. To reduce the, I mean, for example, now, for me to go to Abuja, now, ₦500,000 naira. Because if I don't book my flight quickly enough, it is easily 200,000 naira to fly from Akure to Abuja. 200. And many times I have to pay that on my own. And 6 months, 7 months, I don't get my refund. So now I don't go to Abuja unless I absolutely must. I will ask, can't we do this by Zoom? Okay, so we must use technology. But there are times when they want you to be there. Okay? Just maybe I should say, they gave me 3 of my refunds back. Average of, I would tell, so that people will come asking for money. But that is money that you have spent almost 6 months before. You have to have the money if you have to go to work. So there's a lot of money now. And that's part of the cost of, and that's only me. We have 15, 16, 17 commissioners who get called to, that's also part of the federalizing aspect of this country. There's too much call to Abuja to do this or to do that. Too much.
We'll be speaking with Professor MOBOLAJI ALUKO, former Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Otuoke, Bayelsa State, and currently Commissioner for Utilities and Commissioner for Infrastructure and Public Utilities. Prof, we thank you for sharing your ideas with us.
Very happy to be here. What do you call yourself again? People love the font.
Yes.
I always like it when I hear you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bless you. We look forward to hosting you again.
No problem.
Yes, sir. Is she?